Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some video examples. This routine is actually 15 little segments, and each segment is a little exercise or a little technique that tends to show up in piano literature. Everyone knows about scales, right? Everyone knows about arpeggios. It's because they're really important. And it's because whenever you're playing a piece of piano literature, quite often you might not have a whole scale to play, but you'll see, you look a couple beats ahead in the future, and you'll see a little segment of music that looks like it's in scalar motion, ascending or descending, and all of that training that you did before is priming you to be able to read that with a little more ease, so that you're not actually literally reading every single note that's passing by. So, for example, the first segment is on scales. You'll have all the different motions. The next segment is on arpeggios. And as you move through the routine, you're kind of getting a little taste of everything that might show up. All right, so let's start by taking a look at each of these segments one at a time, and then we'll go and take a look at the entire routine being played. So the pianist is going to be playing the A section right now, which starts in parallel motion ascending, contrary motion outward, contrary motion inward, and then back to parallel motion descending. All right, now let's take a look at the B section. The B section is arpeggios played simultaneously. Same routine, or the same process. Parallel motion ascending, contrary motion outward, contrary motion inward, parallel motion descending. All right, now we're on section C. This is kind of a 1950s style typical progression that you would hear. This is a 1, 6, 2, or 4-ish to a 5-7 sus, and then a 5-7 resolving to the 1. All right, so many pianists grew up with a guy named Hannon. I played quite a bit of Hannon when I was younger. If you don't know what Hannon was or what Hannon is, it's basically a book of a bunch of different kind of routines like this, little music passages that go up and down the keyboard. This just happens to be one of my favorites. I suppose you could probably put any of them in here, but I just put this one in here because I liked it. But I took this Hannon pattern, and then later on through this routine, we kind of do some variations on it, put it in thirds and sixes and tenths and so on to make it more interesting. So here is the regular Hannon check pattern taken straight out of his book. All right, now we are in section E. This is the same Hannon pattern, but we're going to play it in tenths, intervals of tenths. All right, now we are in section F. Same Hannon pattern, but we're going to do this in intervals of sixths. Okay, now we're in the G section, the Hannon pattern in thirds. This one gets a little congested with your fingers, so you might need to either adjust the tempo a little slower, or you can add some staccatos, in the part where your fingers are kind of what will feel like they're colliding with each other. You have to kind of get them out of the way. So if you can play it without doing that, that's fine, but you might have to do that every now and then, especially if you're in keys where your hands are moving back and forth a lot. Okay, now we're in section H. This is where I twisted up a little bit and I added kind of a classical style, sort of a double dot flavor to it. So this is the Hanon pattern, but with a different rhythm. All right, now we are in section I. Same Hanon pattern, but now with the classical style variation. And we're going to have the hands work together in kind of a syncopated dance. So your right hand is going to be playing that alternate rhythm that I gave you. The left hand is still doing eighth notes, just back and forth, and we're going to do it in tenths. Very good. Here is section J. This is going to be the same Hanon pattern. The right hand is doing the alternate rhythm. The left hand is doing straight eighth notes, but this one is in sixths. All right, section K, we're almost there. Section K is the Hanon pattern, just reverse the rules of the hands. Now the left hand is doing the classical style variated rhythm, and the right hand is doing eighth notes, and we're still in sixths for this one. And here we go, section L. This is the last Hanon variation. So you're doing, the hands are still reversing roles. The right hand is doing the eighth notes. The left hand is doing the classical style, variation, but now you're in tenths again. All right, we're almost done. We're on section M, and this is going to be scales again. And I always thought, how cool would it be to play scales or to have a student who can play their scales really well, but to add a little more mental chewing gum, let's do the scales in harmony. So this one is ascending, parallel ascending, and parallel descending. You don't have to go contrary because it won't work with the harmony. So it's parallel ascending and then descending. And you're going to hear the pianist first do it in sixths, and then in tenths, and then in thirds. Here we go, section N, and this is for broken chords, training all of the inversions. So you're going to go parallel motion, ascending, contrary motion, outward, contrary motion, inward, and then parallel motion, descending. this last section is just for your enjoyment. It's a little icing on the cake to kind of seal the deal when you get done with the routine, a little coda just for fun.